want to first of all start by greeting you all with the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and blessings be upon you. Today, I'm here standing on behalf of many community leaders and here in solidarity with the countless volunteers who have been working to serve the community here, the gatekeepers, the caretakers, all of the people that you're hearing from today, the gardener, and everyone, and specifically also the George Floyd family. What happened this morning reminds me of what happened a year ago that killed George Floyd. It was a city action that killed George Floyd that moved the world toward more just society. What happened this morning was a city decision to once again destroy the hope and pain that exists in this space.
That's right.
And to try to wash it away. Even as we are just 1 week away from remembering the life of George Floyd and a year away from the killing and torture and murder and lynching of George Floyd. This space is a space that has now become a national memorial for George Floyd, a national memorial for victims of police violence all over this world. This space, for many people who do not know 38th in Chicago, I grew up in Minneapolis. I was here in 1993. I worshiped a few blocks away from here. I know 38th in Chicago. 38th in Chicago is a symbol of the forgotten communities across this country where many black families live. 38th in Chicago has had its share of violence long before George Floyd was killed. 38th in Chicago's black, brown, indigenous, Latino, and other businesses have been neglected long before George Floyd was killed.
Yes. Yes.
The black community, the oldest black community that lived not far from here on Chicago, and particularly even on Portland, many of those families are no longer even around. We know for many people who don't know why 35W turns. 35W turns. You know why it turned? Because there was a white neighborhood that said no more, that the highway was not going to go through. But this highway went through a black community. The reality is the trauma that was caused today, and I speak to my beloved community, is a test to all of us to see if we still care. It's a test to all of us to see if we're going to continue to demand justice. The state of Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis have not done anything fundamentally to hold police accountable. And what we heard from today is also another effort to try to divide our community, but our community is more united than ever before. We are more focused than we're ever before, and we're more determined to build a better community. It's not the traffic that they're trying to bring through this road. It is the fact that they want to ignore the legacies that created this country, from the genocide of Native Americans to today the mass incarceration of black people all over this country, and the continuous brutalization of black people, just as the killing of George Floyd and the many incidents that have been happening. They're not trying to drive cars through here. They're trying to delete history. But we will not let them delete this history. City leaders have had an entire year to respond to the demands that have been set by the community members here and the community members at large. And yet they have yet to do that. And so we are asking now our beloved community to see the truth for what it is. This aggression is an attack on all of us, is an attack of the legacy of George Floyd, is an attack of everything we have done this past year to build a more stronger, just society. We will not give up. We will not give up this space. We will save it for George Floyd, and we will save it for the thousands of families across this country who, for the first time, their loved one's story was seen through the murder of George Floyd. For the first time, people recognize that there are many families grieving who have never got justice. And how dare they act on this space while still Derek Chauvin has not been sentenced, while still three officers are yet to be brought to justice. How dare they declare to erase this history. But we know that we're not fighting just the police. We're fighting a system that does not see our value, a system that has neglected us, a system that doesn't educate our children, a system that doesn't give us money for our businesses and support us, a system that will not recognize the historical fact that reparation is a real thing.
Say that.
And until we get reparation, we can't have wholeness. And if anything reminds you of anything, this past weekend, 100 years passed since the destruction of Black Wall Street. This community could have been another Black Wall Street. Where was the city leaders to support the black businesses before George Floyd was killed? Where was the city leaders supporting our families and our communities before George Floyd was killed? And now, how is it that the family of George Floyd is the only one that have asked for investment into this community? How does a grieving family have to be the only ones to put money here, and corporations across the state and the city will fail to support the businesses in this neighborhood? Shame. We say enough is enough.